Alright, sure, we've all done something embarrassing before. Most of us on multiple occasions. We get into fights for the wrong reasons, we say things we regret, and we write awkward love letters or bad fan fiction. It's a part of being human. But thanks to the magic of the internet, the mistakes that we used to be able to quietly live down can now be preserved forever for the entertainment of the masses. We're not 100% sure why it's so fascinating to see other people at their most awkward, but it sure is. So here, submitted for everyone's enjoyment, are 10 of our favorite awkward moments streamed live by mistake. Too much. Now look, we don't blame the popular live streamer Kitty Plays for getting excited when one of her followers sends her a truly enormous 4-figure donation. That kind of money is enough to make anybody jump up and down for joy. But what makes this clip so awkward is the way she processes the overwhelming emotions of her sudden windfall. Over the course of several minutes, she shrieks in higher and higher tones until her voice cracks, curls up in a ball and mutters "no, no, no" over and over again and rolls around on the floor, among other antics. Don't get us wrong, it's heartwarming to know that Kitty Plays has stumbled into such good fortune, but at the same time, her extended inability to come to grips with it quickly becomes about as comfortable to watch as a supercut of politicians hugging each other. Bathroom break. It's one thing to be a bit out of it after some heavy drinking. Alcohol's a depressant after all. It makes people tired and slows the response times. But one live streamer took blackout drunk to a whole new level of awkward embarrassment in this video clip. After drinking on camera and then falling asleep for a while, he seems to wake up when he gets a phone call, but it quickly becomes clear that he's not entirely lucid as he stands up, opens his fly, and proceeds to pee all over his own keyboard. Thankfully, viewers can't actually see any of the explicit details, but the sound is unmistakable. Thanks to his webcam, the shame is everlasting. Trash fire. You'd think that 40 years of life would confer some amount of common sense, but this streamer is living proof that age and wisdom don't always go hand in hand. A Japanese streamer, Yoshihiro Mazda, was a product reviewer who decided to review a lighter for his audience. With the camera running, Mazda tosses a lighter fluid-soaked tissue in the trash, tries to light a match, catches the entire matchbox on fire, and throws the still-burning match and the flaming box in 2 different places, making it impossible to keep an eye on both fires at once. The results are as predictable as they are awkward. The garbage behind him catches while he's looking at the other flame, and things quickly spiral out of control. Soon, he tries to extinguish the trash fire, but his efforts are unsuccessful. Reports from Japan indicate that the fire eventually spread to 3 apartments. In fact, one woman eventually died in the blaze. Let this be a lesson. If you're too awkward to know what to do with a lit match, don't play with fire. Cringe Fight. People don't look good when they lose their cool. They either come off seeming rude and unpleasant or belligerent and aggressive. So, what could be more uncomfortable than a live streaming video with both kinds of awkwardness? In this infamous clip, the esports streaming channel ESL is running a talk show style discussion of a StarCraft 2 tournament, when one of the hosts, Paul Chuliner, notices that someone is about to walk in front of the camera by accident. The host quickly warns the man not to block the camera, but the warning comes too late and the man walks by without realizing he stepped in front of a live show. It's over quickly enough, though Paul has the bright idea of calling the guy an idiot, which makes him come off as a bit of a jerk. But that's not the end of it. After hearing the insult, the screen crosser comes right back up to the host, leans into his face, and starts getting into it. Paul keeps his cool, but refuses to acknowledge that he said anything rude, making the other guy even angrier. Between Paul's obvious discomfort and the interloper's unnecessary anger, the clip is enough to make any viewer squirm. Candid Camera. Bjergsen is a popular competitive League of Legends player and Twitch streamer who suffered a very awkward moment while live streaming at his family home. Unaware that her son's camera is on, Bjergsen's mother, who apparently had just finished a shower, walks past his room and stops briefly to check in on him. Unfortunately, she's in her underwear when she does so. Of course, it's not unusual for someone to be dressed down in their own house, but Bjergsen finds himself in an extremely awkward situation, getting embarrassed on his mother's behalf since a lot of people are watching and she doesn't know it. He shoos her away and quickly pushes his door shut, but he's still clearly mortified. At least he has a good laugh about it afterward. Accidental Exhibitionist. Boys do it, girls do it, most people old enough to think about it do it at least sometimes. But much like what we do when we're sitting on the toilet, what we do when we're feeling frisky is something most of us keep strictly private. So we can only imagine the embarrassment that Twitch streamer Darkside Phil felt when he decided to limber up for his daily streaming session with a quick massage, and only realized afterward that his webcam had been on the whole time. Mercifully, nothing can be seen on the camera except Phil's head, shoulders, and forearms, but even watching those parts of him in motion are still more than enough for a viewer's imagination to fill in the blanks. Darkside Phil took his embarrassment in stride, and we're glad for that, but it's still unbearably awkward to even think about. Hardware fail. Twitch user Silent Sentry, like many Twitch gamers, has been known to use silly gimmicks to encourage donations. At the time of this awkward moment, his gimmick was putting on a horse head mask and spinning around on a stripper pole beside his chair. It sounds embarrassing, but since Silent Sentry was doing it on purpose, it was all in good fun. However, the gimmick and Silent Sentry soon fell flat when he jumped up in his horse mask for a quick spin around the pole, and the pole came loose, crashing into his gaming rig and cutting short the festivities. Maybe next time he'll spend some of the attention he gives his fans on doing a better job installing his props. Epic Freakout. Outlast isn't a game for the faint of heart. It's a horror title full of dark spaces, creepy rooms, and some of the most startling jump scares in the genre. Many a streamer has been laid low by the sudden shock as a ghoulish horror pops up seemingly from nowhere in the pitch darkness and viciously attacks them. And let's be honest, if you've played Outlast, you know this monster attack is such a good scare that anybody would jump. Some people might even yell, but one man went overboard into straight up awkward territory when his character was ambushed, flailing wildly before jumping completely free of his chair and screaming, "What is that?" at his computer. Dude, it's a horror game. What did you expect? School's in session. Nobody gets along with their folks 100% of the time, but much like yelling at children in the grocery store, it's bad form to disrespect one's parents in public view, especially when the parent in question is clearly on the right side of the fight. That's what makes this clip of the Twitch streamer Rexy so incredibly awkward. Rexy has told his mother that he's too sick to go to school, but he's actually just making up an excuse to get more time to sit at home and stream games. Needless to say, Mom quickly discovers what he's up to and schools him all on her own, threatening to rip all the wires out of his computer if he doesn't get right back into bed. What makes this exchange even worse is that Rexy fights back despite having no good excuse, coming across as lazy, petulant, and disrespectful. Ouch, dude. Not a good look. Native American. For those who don't know, Poe's Law is a truism that states that it's impossible to make an online parody that at least some people won't think is serious. In other words, on the internet, it's really hard to tell when someone's joking, unless they come right out and say they are. That brings us to Twitch streamer Ashley Marie L, whose replies to viewer questions seem to prove Poe's Law. They're so unbelievably dense that she must be joking, right? Our favorite gaffe comes when someone asks her if she's Native American, but she mixes up the term with North American, talking about how she obviously must be because they're playing on the NA server. She goes on to make all kinds of other embarrassing mistakes, but the way she doubles down on this one without a second thought makes it stand out as the most awkward moment of the whole terrible exchange. So those are our 10 favorite awkward moments streamed live by mistake. What are yours? Do you have one to share that's always stuck in your mind? Give this video a thumbs up and tell us about it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more entertaining content about everything interesting, from comic books to movies and much, much more.